This week for CCF Devotions, we've been talking about positivity and just kind of thinking about that we live in a time right now of uncertainty and negativity. And so that there's benefits to just kind of having positivity and bringing that into the world instead of negativity. And that's what we should be living in light of, bringing positive things, putting good things in the world. And so today I want to talk a little bit about forgiveness and how that's something really positive that we can be putting into this world. And this passage is especially speaking to me right now, just with how things are at home. I'll get into that a little bit, but first let me read from you Ephesians 4:31 and 32, and then I'm also going to sneak into chapter 5 and do verses 1, 2. So it's all four verses are together. They're just separated between two separate chapters. Anyway, let me read it. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. And now, the reason I said that this passage was hitting me especially is because in our house we have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and me and my wife, and so we've been living together, spending a lot more time together, pretty much almost 24/7, except for those couple hour excursions I have each week to go to the grocery store. We've been in the same house together. Now we get to go outside and play in our backyard and that kind of stuff, and so really happy to have a house with a yard for that reason. But there's a lot of, with the way our kids interact with each other, there's a lot of picking at each other and fighting and disagreements and stealing each other's toys and hitting and pushing and just kind of the stuff that comes with little kids in confined spaces. There's fights that end up happening. And so one of the things that we're trying to train them and teach them right now is how to forgive one another when those fights do happen, but also to have an attitude of forgiveness so that those fights don't happen, and so that that's a better way that they can live life. That if you notice your sister is taking your blocks, instead of just hitting her or pushing her over or trying to steal them back, you kind of compromise and you talk about, hey, well, I was playing with those right now. Can you play with them in a second? Or is there a way we can build this together? Is there something we can do? And so you kind of find out how not only to forgive, but also to live in a way that's kind and compassionate, so that maybe you won't even have to get to that. I mean, you're still forgiving them because of the wrong that they've done to you, but you show kindness and compassion and involve them in the process, so you get to play together instead of being at each other's throats and pushing and hitting and all those things. That's just negative behavior. And so I think we see that somewhat playing out in the world. There's a lot of different opinions on what's going on how different decision makers are handling policy related to the pandemic, and should we be opening back up? Should we be trying to keep people safe? Trying to make it so that there's two ends of this argument when maybe there's a solution in the middle or something. I don't know. That's not what the point of this is. What I wanted to say is that with all this negative attitude and all of this other things that are going on, the thing that we're called to do is to be kind and compassionate, to forgive one another, because we know that Christ has forgiven us, and he's the ultimate example and model as to what we're supposed to do. Christ is someone who laid down his life for us. So that means we can set aside some of our opinions and some of our desires to be right, to have other people think the way that we do. Whatever that looks like, we should be kind and compassionate when we're discussing the issues with one another, when we're trying to help people make decisions, when we're looking at people who've made decisions where it's not our place to make them, and extend kindness and compassion and forgiveness, even if we disagree with those decisions. It's a lot to ask for, especially in a day and age where anyone can have their opinion shared. Anyone can make a social media post and have it go viral, and then suddenly their opinion becomes the opinion of the day. There's a lot going on in this world, but we're called to be ones who bring positivity into this world, who bring kindness, who bring compassion, who bring forgiveness. And so that's what I want us to focus on today. Think about things that have gone wrong in your life, whether it's because someone has caused that wrong, whether it's because of circumstances, whatever it may be, and think of ways that you can be the one who's kind, that you can be the one who's compassionate, that you can be the one who is forgiving, so that you can set those things aside and move into a positive direction instead of just spiraling into negativity and stealing back the blocks and pushing and hitting and doing all those things that you want to do because you maybe even feel justified to do. But God has called you to be kind, to be compassionate, to be forgiving. So let's do that today.